Good evening. I call this meeting to order of the September 10th, 2018 work session of the York County School Board. We're heading into another week of school, and it's kicked off, and it's been exciting for our students, teachers, and entire staff. We also have some other news with the impending storm, and I know everybody's watching that, but I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Shandor to have a brief talk about that.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Good evening, board members and staff, and to our community. We have just received information, actually at the end of our last meeting, that Governor Northam has issued a mandatory evacuation of Zone A starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Due to the number of students and staff families impacted by this announcement, we're going to cancel schools tomorrow. You should be receiving a message from Catherine Goff here in a few minutes. Has it gone out? It's going out. So you've either received it or you're going to receive that message. For our families to prepare for the storm. Additionally, all schools and offices will remain closed until further notice. So I did want to make sure we shared that as we went on live.
Okay. And before we continue, I think the board needs to have a quick discussion on how we want to proceed with tonight's meeting. I know we've been back and forth in our talks, or my talk with Dr. Shandor anyway. We have several presentations, and staff has worked hard on a lot of these presentations and has a lot of information to present. And I would hate to not have them able to present. But we do have some staff that live in that zone, in Zone A, and we certainly want to do what we can to accommodate them because they have some preparations they need to do. And I know, Dr. George, you're one of them, and I'm one of them too. So it's up to the board whether we want to do the whole meeting or just cancel these presentations until we can either reschedule them for before our next meeting on the 17th if it's available, or sometime in the future after that. I know we've asked for these presentations. They're ready, they're here, but in light of the information we've just received. So
I'm going to always rule on the side of caution for everything. I know we do have a lot of staff members in this room and board members that are in Zone A, but if we want to get through some of it and park some of the items that are going to be more lengthy in time, it's really the pleasure of everyone.
I think this information was information that we normally get at the beginning of the school year, plus information that we requested, but nothing that's going to be a vote tonight. Is for information only. So whatever the pleasure of the board, just to give people a chance to go out and get families straight for tomorrow morning who do live in those areas, is fine if we postponed. I want to give staff has put a lot of work into these presentations, and I want to give them the opportunity to give their best to it and not feel as though they're rushed through it.
I agree.
Let me ask you this question. Do we have presentations? We can move things around. So if we have a staff member or two that are presenting and they're in Zone A, let them roll first and then clear them out.
If I could just make a quick recommendation. We have two items that we can share quickly, and then if the board wants to adjourn and postpone these presentations. Mr. Bowen has a presentation that will last a very short period on Munis, and I'd like Dr. Carroll just to provide a hair of information about staffing. Other than that, the other presentations we can do with whatever you would like.
Is that acceptable?
Sure.
Okay. So Dr. Shandor, I'll let you start.
Sure, I'll just ask Mr. Bowen to share just a brief update on Munis. And the reason I'm saying that is because this is going to impact a decision at our next meeting related to the vote. However, before we start, I'm going to ask if Dr. James can step out, and if Mr. Dolak, Mr. Shearhart, and Mr. Lash, if they can step out. We have some operations matters that they're going to continue to work on.
Thank you.
Yes. In the Siders.
So thank you, Mr. Richardson, members of the board, and Dr. Shandor. I appreciate the opportunity to provide an update, a brief update on the Munis project. And for those watching at home that may not be familiar with the Munis project, this is a joint project with the county and school division. This is a new enterprise system that we are working and implementing. This enterprise system has several modules to it. It has a finance and purchasing, budget, HR and payroll module. We're working with the county right now. We've implemented phase one, which included the finance and purchasing modules. That process began in the spring of 2017. We just went live in July of 2018. So we're still working through some of the issues with that implementation. The next implementation is the reason why I'm talking to you this evening, because we have some concerns with this next implementation. And this is the HR and the payroll module. The preliminary meetings start this month, but the project really kicks off in October. And we'll have a 15-month implementation process. We go live January 1, 2020. The concern here with this module is this particular module touches all of our employees because it impacts pay and it impacts their deductions. We have some concern on our side that with the last implementation, we didn't have anybody really, one designated person at the school division who served as the school division's project coordinator. So at the next business meeting, I will bring a recommendation forward to the board to consider approving a full-time temporary position just for this module. So if the board elected to approve this, this person or this position, we would hire that, or fill that position immediately. We would like to continue with that position until June 30, 2020, which is 6 months after the implementation. We believe that'll give us a sufficient enough time to work through any unforeseen issues. But we have had some issues. We know the scope of this project is very large. It's an important project. We want to try and minimize the negative impacts to employees and their pay as much as possible. So we're hoping that with this project coordinator for the school, will help to minimize those issues. Now, I'll tell you, also add this action has already been taken on the county side. So the county has hired, or is it actively hiring for a project coordinator for their HR and payroll piece. So I'll bring that forward at the next meeting, and we'll go from there.
Is there going to be a level of agreement or understanding between the school board and the board of supervisors or the county in regards to the project coordinators working together and who does what, when, and?
Yeah, so
Anytime there's any type of collaborative project like this, there's always some type of service level agreement that's in place, so.
So this is a project that's being run or managed by the county. We're kind of forced to go this way, but it's a process we need to go to because the systems that we have are very old and outdated. So we are working collaboratively on this project. And but what's really causing us concern with this piece is on the county side, you have the class of employees is generally full-time, part-time, and seasonal. With the school division, we have full-time, part-time, but our full-time consists of 10-month, 11-month, 12-month contracts, 10-month plus days, 11-month plus days. The complexity of our payroll system is at a higher level than what the county has. So we really feel like with the size of our payroll department, we have 3.5 employees that process payroll for almost 1,800 employees, and added to that 300 substitutes every month. So it's hard to pull those payroll folks out of their jobs for them to be the coordinators of these projects. So we need really somebody to facilitate those questions, those meetings, the whole structure and setup for the school division.
There's no way to leverage the project coordinator from the county then? I mean,
From understanding, no.
Well, the county side is dealing just with the county structure.
Right.
And so the school division will work with just the school division structure, knowing that they're two separate structures altogether. So this person will help to facilitate the differences between the two and will work to make sure that all of our concerns and questions with our structure of positions will be integrated into the process.
Is there a component to Munis that looks at health insurance and that piece of it too?
Well, part of the HR piece, they have an employee self-service.
Okay, yeah.
So employees will then be able to elect online their
What they want
benefits.
to do.
Yes.
Okay.
And I know there's been some hiccups here and there with getting some reports, because I know we've asked for some reports. I think you asked for a year-end report. And that's because of this Munis system. I guess my only concern is we're moving ahead with something that we're still having issues that they're being resolved, I guess, with the vendor or the computer company.
So we have had some hiccups, and we continue to have those. But I think the county's been very responsive to our questions and concern and the issues that we've addressed. We haven't worked through the report issue. We're meeting with them tomorrow to try and find a solution. And we're really behind the 8 ball on this because auditors are here, and we need to provide them with information, and we can't provide them until we get those accurate reports. So another reason why we feel like, because payroll is so important, we need someone to really facilitate that process for us.
Nobody likes you to mess with their pay.
No.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much, Mr. Bowen, for that report.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
We're going to, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Dr. Carroll if he
moving right
could
along.
do the staffing update.
All right, I'll try to do it as fast as I can. Good evening, members of the board, Chairman Richardson. So I'm just going to give you an update on where we're at with staffing here on day 6 of school. Just to give you some context here, we, at any time during the year, we'll have about 25 openings. Right now, we have 41.4, so just a little bit more than that. And the lion's share is in the non-licensed realm. We have 35 openings there. Now, the good news is we have, with the consolidation of bus routes, we have 0 bus routes that don't have a driver. We've retained 5 open FTEs, and we have 8 hires in the pipeline. So in just a couple weeks, we should be in really good shape to have some floaters that are based in each zone. So we always have somebody to sub and to take care of routes that aren't covered. 3 openings in the trade positions. Now, those have been there a while. 2 IT positions, 3 secretaries, 7 custodians. The biggest group is the 22 paras. Now, we usually have about a dozen open at this point because the principals hire them late. Haven't heard from the principals why that's a problem. I don't know if they're just a little bit of a lag. But it's an average of just a little bit over 1 para in each school. I'm sure those will get closed up. For instructional, we're in much better shape. Next month, I'll be giving you the class size report, and you know that we hold positions back whenever we have a new budget to see are we hitting our projections as a total, and where are we seeing growth in particular grade levels, especially at elementary. We did have higher than projected student enrollments at Coventry and Grafton Bethel. And so in the last couple of weeks, we've given out the 6 allotments that were budgeted that we held back. And despite that, we only have 6.4 positions still open. Now, last year, our biggest issue was SPED teachers, special ed teachers, as we had 6.5 openings when we started school, and that escalated to about 8 or 9 by the end of September. This year, we're down to only needing 2 right now, and one is in early childhood. We hired 14 last spring centrally, as I told you we were going to do, and we did a pretty good job, except for we didn't account for people dropping out because they got cold feet when they didn't know where they were going. So if we build that in for next year, I think we'll have no problem making sure we're fully staffed in special ed next year. Also, good news is last year we entered the year short 4 employees in the special ed related services positions. I'm happy to report that on day 1 of school, actually a few weeks beforehand, we were fully hired in that category. So right now we have 3 elementary classroom openings, 1 kindergarten and 2 4th grades. 2 of those were recent allocations, and 1 was a resignation that took place earlier this week. So that just leaves a 0.4 secondary content teacher and a high school principal to fill. And you'll be happy to know that we posted for the tab high position just today. So we're going to start that process. I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Carroll, for that report. I think the other items can be pushed back since some of them are kind of lengthy as well also. We can try to do those, if possible, if we meet next Monday.
If we're in school here.
If we have school and everything before the meeting. Come in at 5:30, 5, whatever would work out.
We've adjusted before, I think, for snow.
Yeah, we'll work out the times to make sure we're here for enough time, because I don't want to rush any of these presentations. So we're only going to push it about a week, till next Monday. Hopefully, that we'll be able to do that. But now we can get staff home and let them get prepared for the storm that's approaching. Are there any other questions or concerns from the board before we close?
And with respect to your opening of school report, we haven't heard of any major issues, so I'm gonna think everything was, you always look at little glitches here and there,
We
but
had a couple,
nothing.
one I'll
Yeah.
address. Obviously, last year, transportation was a big concern. The first day, several board members sent me, concerns from parents within the school division. What I'll tell you is we sent 3 or 4 extra staff members down to transportation to help them with call volume, and they did that the first 2 days. And James stepped out, but the message from us was call every single one the first day. Email, text, carrier pigeon, however they got the message, call those parents back so that they can show that we're communicating. And we succeeded, did a good job with that, and everything's gotten better, obviously, as the weeks went on. So thrilled with that.
Great,
Yep.
wonderful.
So, go ahead. Yep. All right, so the next meeting may be a special meeting, or I'm not sure how we'll term that, to continue the work session, to cover these items next meeting. But hopefully, weather permitting, we'll meet on September 17th, our regular board meeting, and hopefully prior to get these other items covered. So,
Everybody be safe.
yeah, everybody be safe. Thank you.
Be safe.
This meeting's adjourned.
Are you going to Pittsburgh?